Fam, thank you for choosing to watch this episode of Mind the Mic podcast. Before we get into it, though, I need you to hit subscribe. And not just me, the whole Mind the Mic podcast family needs you to. Maddie, Uncle Pete, Stu, Leka, and of course myself, Shubz, and anybody else that's on board by the time you watch this video, we need you to hit subscribe. If it's your first time here, I understand if you're a bit reserved and you're like, I don't know, watch the video and after subscribe if you want to. But if you're here and you're watching all the time, subscribe. It's not that hard. All you got to do is, if you're watching on your TV, you're like, I can't subscribe, I don't have an account. You have a phone, don't you? I know you have a phone in your hand right now. Grab the phone, create a YouTube account. It takes a couple minutes, and then you can subscribe. And when you do that too, hit the notification bell so you can get notified every time we put up a new episode. I asked this of you because we put in so much time. We've done hundreds of episodes. We plan on doing thousands more with as many amazing people as we can. But we need you to subscribe, fam. Big love to everybody that's been watching. Big love to everybody that's been supporting and anybody that's just arrived. I hope you enjoy the journey, enjoy the episode, and subscribe. Hey, welcome back to another Mind the Mic podcast. I'm your host, Shubz, here with a very special guest. A lady that has a huge ass CV, a huge one that I'm like, when she said it to me, I was like, wow, like I knew she was an interesting human being, but she's got a lot of layers to her story, which we're going to get into. Known as the Queen of Prefab, Amy Marks. How are you, Queen?
I'm doing great this morning. How are you doing?
So another day, another podcast, and another. Hopefully, some gems we can take out of this. I'm sure there will be, and share with some people for years to come on whatever platform this lives on. So I'm good. I'm excited to get to know you more, and yeah, hopefully the people enjoy it. I'm sure they will.
Same.
Yeah, definitely. I guess for people that don't understand or even know who you are, can you give us a little bit extra background other than what I've just spoken about on yourself?
Sure. My name is Amy Marks. I do have a little nickname, not a self-given name, but they call me the Queen of Prefab. So around the world of construction and industrialized construction, making really complicated things in factories. Right now, I work for a company called Symmetry, and I'm actually the executive vice president of global strategy and growth. So we are a technology company that works in the manufacturing, construction, and the architecture space and working with big owners. So we help them actually work smarter and more sustainably. But yeah, I'm all about strategy and growth in my life, I think, at this point.
Yeah, well, I love that. So what was life like for a young Amy Marks, dude? A pre Queen of Prefab, hey?
I mean, it was rough, actually, to be honest. Like I always say, I probably shouldn't be here. I was a bit of not a bit. I was definitely a throwaway kid. Like not many people really cared about Amy Marks at that point. And I used to run away a lot. I was a runner actually as a little kid.
Where was this? Where were you running from and
so, I don't know where to most of the time. No, I was I lived in New York. So I'm from New York and I had a bit of a rough upbringing. I always say like we weren't in the situation where we economically were difficult. It was more emotionally, and my parents were they didn't really want to necessarily be great parents when I was growing up. So I got shipped off to a boarding school at 12, and I didn't live at home actually after that. But the reason they shipped me off is I was a bit of I was on the neurodiversity scale, so I was very bored in school. I got straight A's, but I was very disruptive, and so I actually just got shipped off to a school, and that was kind of it. After I was running away a lot, and not getting into so much trouble, but mostly my parents were not great parents, to be honest, at the time. It was more they were getting in trouble, and I was running away mostly.
Oh, solid. So, well, where did you go when you said you were 12 years old? You went to a boarding school. Where was this boarding school?
I went to sleepaway school. That's like boarding. You live at school all year round, and it was out in the western region, northwest region of the United States. So pretty much when you're a runner, they put you in the middle of nowhere so that there's mountains all around you, so you can't get out, basically. So that's
true. Also to the other side of the country, they put you.
Totally other side of the country, yeah.
Wow. Like what's near there? Like Washington,
right.
Or like
right in Idaho, the tippy
Idaho. Okay, yeah,
right by Canada.
Oh damn! Well, what was life like as a 12-year-old going from? So when you say New York, you're from like the city, New York City, or
I'm from the island off of New York, so Long Island.
Oh, Long
Actually,
Island. Yeah. I
that's
like
where
the iced tea. Shout out to Long Island iced tea. Yeah.
yeah, no, but yes, that's sort of like that.
Yeah. But so then was it would have been a culture shock, right? Being a 12-year-old going from the city to this other place?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it was a pretty controversial boarding school, to be honest. Like it made it in the news quite a bit later. But yeah,
Oh, not at the time though. It wasn't a
no, not at the
controversial
time.
thing.
At the time, it was actually there was a big wilderness component of it. So for a city girl, they were like, "Great, we're gonna put a backpack on you and make you run around and survive out in the woods," kind of thing. Break you down a little bit, I think, as a kid.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. So yeah, I don't camp anymore. If that makes sense, I don't do that anymore so
Oh,
much.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah. What, since then, or you did it a little bit after? Or?
Not so much even since then, to be honest. Like I kind of
Oh,
got my fill at that place and I was done.
yeah. Or they put you off it. They put you off camping, maybe.
Yeah, it's funny. My partner's he loves the outdoors and he's big into hunting. He's a big hunter. So like he loves
Okay.
the bow and arrow and like he hunts and bow hunting. And so he loves to be in the middle of nowhere in the woods. And I'm like, I'll be at that really nice hotel, like over there.
Yeah.
So I'm not so much into the outdoor camping situation anymore since then, but yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And did you finish at that school? Did you finish
I
high
did.
school there?
I was 16 when I graduated high school, and then I went to the University of Florida.
Is it young? 16?
Yeah, it's a bit young. I skipped a year and a half about, let's say.
Well,
But
man,
yeah,
you queen prefab even back then, eh? You already knew.
I think actually a lot of kids that are on the spectrum are very smart, but in some ways, right? Like I think there's a lot of things I'm great at and super smart at, and there's other things I'm like completely clueless. And you'd be like, "What is she? She doesn't know how to do that?" Like, those kinds of things. So, but yeah, I graduated and I went to the University of Florida at 16, which is insane. My daughter's 15 right now. She's a sophomore in high school. And I think, man, she can barely make eggs. How would I like put her out into the street? She's actually a good cook, but I thought like, she can cook, but she's still like a baby. I can't even think of her out there.
Sophomore, what's that? Is that the second year?
It's the second year of high school. So she's got 2 more years of high school before they go on to uni.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, because we didn't call it this out.
I know.
Oh, you've been in New Zealand a few times, have you?
Oh, a bunch of times. She's grade 10, basically. She's grade 10. But yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Grade 10. Yeah.
Or she just finished grade 10, I should say.
Oh, what did you live, or you just visited New Zealand?
I've been a bunch of times. I did a lot of work out there, actually. In fact, I was the keynote recently at a conference called BIM-NZ for the Building Information Modeling Conference there in New Zealand last year. And so I went down there. I was lucky the Uppicky Women's Finals was at the same time. So I went down.
Oh,
I went down and saw the Uppicky Women's Finals in Hamilton at the time. So yeah, it was good.
Yeah, she's talking about rugby for anybody that doesn't know. She played rugby for 15 years, you said, eh?
Yes, definitely. I'm a prop. 2 props make a prop. That's my daughter's a prop. So.
Oh yeah. What about your partner? Was he a rugby player also? Or?
He was a early days, not like me, but he was a prop as well. So my ex-partner, I always say like 2 props make a prop. They don't actually. They don't make a wing. So I have a prop. She plays everything in the front row. She now plays hooker as well. But yeah.
Wow. So did you play? When did you get into the game?
Yeah, in college, I actually walked up. I was about to walk up to like an intramural table to go row crew to do rowing because I was a big swimmer early days.
Yep.
And they were like, "Hey, do you want to play this game rugby?" And I was like, "I don't really know what that is." Like, I had no idea. And I mean, I'm going to be 53 next month, so I was 16 at the time. And I was like, I don't know what that sport is. And they were like, you get to kick the ball. And I played soccer. And they were like, you can kick and you can pass the ball. And they were like, you get to tackle people like American football. And I was like, I'm in. I want to play that. What is that? Like, I want to hit people. Let me do that. So, and then I played for the University of Florida. And then I played for.
Was that Gators?
That was the Gators. Go Gators.
Oh, true. Yeah, the Gators.
Yeah. And then I played for a team called North Shore in Chicago, North Shore Women's Rugby. They're in the Women's Premier League now. And then I played at a team called Morris in New Jersey, which my daughter plays for the high school team now at Morris. So they're like usually, I think they came in 5th at nationals this year in club rugby, my daughter's team. So yeah.
Oh, true. How many teams can like make nationals over there?
A lot actually go. It's funny. It's it's not as small as people think in the United States anymore. I was actually, funny enough, I was just last week at the Olympic Training Center for rugby, women's rugby. So I got to hang out with all the women's sevens players.
Awesome.
That hopefully are going to do something against the Black Ferns, but
I don't think so. No, take it out.
I'm not sure. I'm a bit torn because I really love both teams. So I just,
yeah.
It's tough. Whoever wins. It'll be great. I mean,
yeah, long as we beat Australia, eh? No.
I was gonna say, as long as somebody beats Australia.
They got the dub this year.
That's true.
The girls in the women's the World Series there, I see they got the dub, but I think the Kiwis, the Kiwi girls might have been just saving it for the Olympics, maybe, hopefully.
I think so. I'm gonna go with that. I'm gonna go my women.
Yeah, but it will be cool for the US to do well too. Obviously, the men have. I know the women have had a bit of success, but the men had quite a bit of success also in the men's sevens as well.
Yeah, I mean, overall, honestly, like the women have done better than the men in the United States.
Oh, true. Well, there you go. There you go. My bad. Just got to put that in, Shubz. Excuse me, Shubz.
You know, when you think rugby winners in the United States, I think the women, but you know.
Okay, there you go. My bad. Shout out to the women then, getting dubs.
That's right.
Maybe an Olympic medal, who knows? Eh?
That'd be great, right?
Did they haven't got one yet?
Oh man, is it bad that I don't know that? I can't remember off the top of my head. I don't think so. I don't think they've actually placed in the top 3. I could be wrong. I'll go back and look. I'll have to do some research.
I don't. Yeah. Okay.
I'll go back and look. I know. I mean, they did. I think the thing about rugby is that it has such great analogies to business. I always say, like, the reason I am great at strategy is because I can see the whole field. You know what I mean? I can see the whole field. I have vision for the field because as a prop, like, as you know, and I'm a bit svelte now, but like, you don't want to run so far. So you're like, I need to figure out where the ball's going to be so I don't waste my energy. So I feel like that's, where I got that from, not wanting to waste my effort. So figuring out where the ball is going to be, like Wayne Gretzky says, go skate where the puck is. And so I took that to heart. I was like, there's no reason for me to chase the ball unless I'm going to where the ball is going to be at that point,
Yeah, I think it's Miyamoto Musashi says, know the way broadly and you'll see it in all things. So I think you're right. It's good to know that, see the whole field, and obviously that's why you've been such a success, as you say, in your field as well, on and off the field. We might say.
I hope so. Yeah. So I think that's literally how it starts. I mean, like, my parents had a construction company that did really well at one point, and I sort of was doing other things. And then early days after University of Florida, they needed some help. My dad had called and said, like, hey, like, we really need some help in this business. Can you come back and help us? And I was young at the time, and I'd just gotten married, and I said, I'm all about family, even though, like, I had kind of a rough upbringing. I'm very forgiving in my life, and so I'm all about family. So I went back and helped them grow the business back to where it needed to get. My little brother, who's 18 years younger than me, actually runs the business now. It's a fantastic business. So he runs Kolka, which is my old family business. And I think it got me back into the place I am now, which is in that construction space and design space. And so everything happens for a reason. You go back to help somebody, and it turns out to be sort of where I made my career, really, by doing that good deed. I think in some ways, you never know where life takes you. But yeah.
What did you study?
I studied public relations, actually, funny enough. And then, yes. And
how does that help you in your career so far?
Well, I mean, PR was different back then. There was no social media. That we barely had the internet. We had like dial-up.
Dial-up. Let's get a dial-up.
I was really cool. I had a typewriter that had a little tiny screen on it, and they thought I had like the greatest thing ever. So yeah, we had just gotten AOL on discs back then, just to put it in perspective. But I can write. I think it gave me great writing skills, and I think so I'm great. I feel like my writing ability is great. And then, yes, I mean, obviously, like, I have a bunch of views on social media and things like that. I'm not sure I got that in college because that didn't exist. But I think, honestly, like, nobody really cared what I studied. So later in life, I went back to Harvard Business School and, paid for myself at Harvard Business School while I was pregnant, actually, with my daughter. So I went back and studied at Harvard.
How important was that period of going back to Harvard Business School? Like, being a lady that you'd already worked for your family business, right? You'd already done all of that stuff. Like, why did you feel the need to go, and go back to business school, go to business school? And what did you take from that? What's the biggest takeaways from that?
Yeah, I think so I had already I worked for not too long at my family business. I got it back up and running, and then I went with a bunch of guys. I found a company to purchase, and then I was the minority shareholder at a company. I found some guys to buy out a company that was in a situation that we could buy out. That was a big specialized construction company that built things like embassies and hospitals, and they built them all in the United States, and we shipped them all over the world. And
Oh wow.
yeah, so I was already like basically out of my family business back by then. But I'll be honest, I think that, when you grow up in sort of that chaos and that place where you're not always super sure about yourself, or you're just like constantly trying to, survive, I felt like I really wanted a piece of paper that said, like, she went to Harvard Business School. She's an alumna of the business school, so that no one could kind of say, like, why, how did she get here? Like, why is she sitting at this table? Like, she's not an architect, she's not an engineer. Like, what gives you the right to sit here? And I think as a woman in a man's business, I think I really went honestly just to say that no one could take the piece of paper away from me. To be honest, it was a little bit of a chip to say, like,
Okay.
I went there, but I think what I did learn, actually, to be honest, is I was just as smart as most of the people in the room. That I did. It sort of gave me
Already.
confidence. That's what I learned, really, to be honest. It was like I had nothing to worry about, actually, is what I learned. That, like, most of the things we make up in our heads aren't really real. And so I feel like, actually, and plus a lot of my real world experience, many of the people that were at the program at the time that I did had not a lot of real world experience, and they weren't very diverse in what their experience was. So, they might have been very good at finance or like very good at HR, but no one had done like 5 different, things in the C-suite. And because I sort of had to survive, I've done everything at that point in a lot of different ways. Yeah, the thing I did learn was that I think that, just the stuff you make up in your head is probably not real.
Okay. So do you feel like that was important though for you to do? Like just to give that flex to yourself to be like, bro, I'm just as good as these people, if not better. Like, you know what I mean, when it comes to
So,
knowing my things. Yeah, okay. So
yeah,
even
like
though
for me,
so
it was great.
did you actually learn something other than
Yeah,
about yourself, like through the business school? Did you learn
I
anything
did.
that you didn't know?
I did. We did. I mean, they do a teaching methodology called case study methodology. So you read about other companies. I did a tremendous amount of reading, and you basically can apply lessons to other companies, not your own company. So it gives you like a little bit of distance, and that way you
Yeah.
can say, like, this is what they should have done, and then you can apply those lessons to yourself. So I feel like for me, that was always a great way of learning the case study methodology, because there's so many times I make references to other industries or other places, to to do a lot of storytelling over, I do about 40, 50 keynotes a year. And so
Yep.
teaching people and talking to people, almost where you're like, telling them about a story, and then at the end they can apply it to themselves, is basically the case study methodology. But I also learned from Dr. Fruhan not to run out of cash. That was he was like, he was like, my finance class, finance, you say finance if you're fancy. Not
Finance, finance,
Yeah, if you're
finance.
fancy, you say finance. That was the first thing he taught me. You say finance, not finance. But I said, I'm not really, I always say I do money, not math in my life. And he was like, don't worry. All you need to know is don't run out of cash. And I was like, okay, good to know. So I always thought, don't run out of cash. Like every time I owned a business or ran a business, don't run out of cash. So seems
and
obvious.
you've and yeah, but that was that what number one, numero uno rule from him, was it?
Yeah, he was like, go with your instincts, like, yes, there's all these formulas, and you can always learn those formulas, but like, go back to the basics and the fundamentals. Look at legacy book, they talk about, like, learn how to do the fundamentals and the basics, and you can never go wrong. And if you're like talking about algorithms and crazy finance things, then you basically, like, yeah, but keep in mind, like, don't run out of cash. Or, like, if that's what you're trying to accomplish, like that you're spending your own cash, at least not everybody else's cash, like, try not to run out of cash. But yeah, that was good. It was good. I felt like I learned a lot. It gave me, I have a lot of friends. Actually, one of my friends who lives down in Australia right now is still a good
So that's
friend
where
from
I
the
live too.
program. Yeah. So I met a lot of people from all over the world. That was quite fun. And watching their careers has been great too.
It's pretty cool flex too to say you went to Harvard Business School, I think. You know?
I mean, for a throwaway kid, right? Like, it's not so bad.
Yeah. Yeah. Looks good on the resume, on the CV.
That's what I say. I mean, like, I always say, like, don't forget, somebody didn't do so well at one of those. When you go to a doctor, I'm always like, were they first in their class, or did they just get the paper? Are they just a doctor that came in last, or are they first? Like, you kind of have
Oh,
to think about that. Like, when you see people's resumes and CVs. For me, honestly, I'm always about learning and constantly learning. So it was a good program for me to do.
Yeah, and you spoke previously about how you were when you were in school. It was dial up and or typewriter things. How have you seen even business? Have you seen like how has business changed in your time from your genesis in business to now, like
The decades and
through
decades.
social media and that?
Yeah, the decades and decades of growth.
The 2 years. No.
I'm like, the nice part is I have an advantage. I just dye it blonde and it doesn't look gray. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think what I've learned is that you got to get uncomfortable with change. That's pretty much life, right? So, and I think if you can apply some great lessons wherever you are, that's important. Like everything is always going to change. And if you think about it, like I would say, like the thing that I take to heart that it doesn't sound so cliche is, I tend to run into a lot of ecosystems in business or companies that work within certain ecosystems that have made their way on making money on other people's waste, right? So they make money on other people's misinformation or lack information that they've sort of like made a way to be the middleman, almost, if you will, like a bit of Elon Musk, if you think about it. Like, but if you've created a company where you're making money off of somebody else's waste, at some point it catches up to you. If you truly have to focus on value, where you're providing value for money, right? So if you think about my space in construction and design, people draw a bunch of stuff that never gets built, and they make money to draw that stuff that never gets built. And in a regular construction project, 41%, if your country spends $100 on a building, 41% of that is just transactional waste. It's people that go to meetings, that do things with each other, that doesn't actually get you anything. And then after that, which is even worse, is that in our landfills, after you spend that money, 30 to 40% of the materials of what you purchase for that project actually end up in the landfill because of digital waste, where somebody didn't quite know how something should be cut or welded or what they were actually going to put in that space. So if you think about like the tremendous amount of, both digital and physical waste that leads us to a place where we have less houses, less hospitals, less data centers. For me, that's been an impactful driver in my life, that like, if you're basically, banking on the fact that somebody's doing something wasteful and that's how you make your money, I don't know, it never seemed like a good bet for me in the long run. Like you can make money for now, but like at some point it catches up to you and somebody figures out how to eliminate that waste or automate that out of the system, and then they're stuck. You know what I mean?
You said Elon Musk earlier. Do you think Elon Musk is gonna run out of things, you reckon? Or
I don't think so. I feel like, listen, you don't have to love people or hate people. I just love learning from people, to be honest. And like, I find that's very interesting about billionaires in general. I've worked for a couple of them in my past. People sort of ask themselves, like, why would they do that? Like, I would never act that way. And I think to myself, yes, but you're also not a billionaire. Like, your parameters are very different. Your learning is very different. Your experience is very different. So like, it's like saying you wouldn't have treated a patient like that if you were an oncologist, but like, you're not an oncologist. You have no idea like what you would do and not do. So I feel like, you don't have to look, there's a lot of controversial political figures, even in our space, in the United States and all over the world. And it's like, they go, I would never talk like that. And I go, right, you probably wouldn't talk like that. And you probably wouldn't make that choice. It wouldn't be normal for you. You're not them. You know what I mean? In a fair way, right? Like,
because you seem to be, like you said, you really enjoy learning, and I'm very much the same. I love learning from people. A lot of my own even family who watch some of these will be like, I didn't even know you think like that. I'm like, well, you never asked me when you first started. You know what I mean? You never asked me, or I didn't know you had knowledge on this type of thing. Especially some of my boys, because like a lot of the time when we're hanging out, we're just watching rugby and just talking rubbish, really. You know what I mean? So I think to them, they're like, I didn't even know you're that dude, or like you have some of those thoughts, or you have some of those ideas in your mind, or like, well, when have we ever been in a situation that would come up? You know what I mean? But you're right, and just on that too, I think you're correct that unless you've walked a mile in their shoes, it's a bit hard to even, and even a mile is not enough, I don't think, to really understand somebody, you know what I mean, or their situation, you know what I mean, like the pressures and all of that kind of stuff. So how do you find being in business? Like, in America is obviously very polarizing worldwide and politically, also in your own country, but how does that kind of stuff affect you, like the politics? Like, I'm talking, presidential politics. Does any of that stuff affect your business or any stuff like that?
Well, I mean, all politics affect all of our businesses, right? I think Well, obviously, like when the governments are focused on particular parts of our world, whether it's infrastructure or the digital infrastructure, or, like I went down and talked to some people in the government about housing in New Zealand at one point, like having a discussion with them about how do you get more housing in New Zealand for people. And so whoever's in charge obviously affects, what's going on. But I think, as well, it does affect our reputation in some ways, like if you're led by people, listen, I happen to like Jacinda at the time, like what was going on down there, and you either love her or you hate her. Things happen, like some things happen that were great under her, and some things you don't agree with under her. But, I think you learn something from whoever is leading your country at the time. And sometimes it's things like anyone you learn from. I love that thing they did. I will always remember that and do it. And that thing they did, I would never do that, but I learned something, right? Like,
but that's you're just talking about specific instances of things that they've done, not necessarily. I more meant, and I should have been a bit more, I should have expanded a bit more on my question. I meant like when it comes to a person politically, if they're in a certain position, would you like, I won't do this because of that person's the head of this and that politically, or no? Like you're not.
Me personally?
Yeah, you personally.
I'm not political. I always say I'm not into politics. I'm not a feminist. I'm a capitalist. So like if it makes money and we can figure out how to make money without hurting people.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I don't really care if you're a Democrat, Republican. I want the end result to be good. And again, I'm not ashamed of being a capitalist. I think if you can do great things and make money, that's the holy grail. You know what I mean? So again, like, I'm not ashamed of being a capitalist. My brain always goes to the commercial aspect. And as well, then I think about the social, implications of whatever you can make money at and make sure that it doesn't hurt the planet or the people. And then, but I definitely like drive with I think the answer to everything in business, one of my friends told me early days, was like, the answer is money. Whatever you ask, the answer is money. Why does this happen? Why can't this happen? Why did we do that? And so the answer is money. So I tend, as a capitalist, to start with the answer of money. And then I say, like, okay, if we can make money at that, like, what are the other implications? Does it have political implications to the social implications? Is it sustainable? Like, that tends to be the way that I think. It's just the way that I was born. I think when you don't have cash, like when you're a runaway kid and you're sleeping on people's couches, like, you're like, do I have money in my pocket? I always think money first, like, I'm like, I still am that girl. I'll open up my purse and make sure I have cash before I eat at a 5-star restaurant. Like, just make sure, just in case their credit card machine doesn't work or something, like, so I feel like, that's what drives me in the decisions, not the politics, but can we make money at it? Is it hurting or helping others and our planet for me? But
I only asked that because I've worked for people in the past who have been quite very, very wealthy over here, and like the mining industry and so on in Western Australia, and some of them wouldn't do things business wise just because of how the other person aligned politically, and then I would think, but like the deal sounds good. Like, is that
$1 million? Like, what do you care about? Like,
I'm thinking in my head, like, and I ain't no millionaire. I'm just thinking like, oh, that doesn't make sense in my head. But yeah, I get it. So but you personally, that doesn't bother you.
Yeah,
I get what you mean.
I'd sell the $1 million and figure out how to fix the other part of it. Like,
yeah, for sure. When you did that speech in New Zealand, or what was your what did you come up with to help make housing in New Zealand? Can you speak on that at all?
Sure. I mean, I feel like, unfortunately, a lot of people think that prefabrication or modular housing is going to like solve all these problems. Like, if we just had modular, like, everyone would have a place to live. And like, no shade thrown at my friends that have great businesses in New Zealand, like, Keith Hay Homes is out there, and Oz Trust and some of my friends. But the government, unfortunately, a lot of the pieces and parts of those houses could be manufactured assemblies, right? Nobody ever says like, hey, we don't manufacture things really efficiently. Like, everybody manufactures things. Manufacturing is. So they look towards the construction guys, and the fairly simplistic construction guys. So like the modular housing guys, the guys that build boxes, aren't necessarily the most sophisticated. If I said, look, those guys that build those, volumetric 1 mod houses, are they as sophisticated as the guys that I know that build semiconductor chip, fabrication facilities? The answer is obviously not the housing guy, right? It's the guys that are building these very complex hospitals or complex manufacturing facilities. So, but because those boxes look quite sexy and they seemingly make this Lego analogy, they're like, we should give money to these quirky house module guys, but they realize, like, those boxes take up a tremendous amount of space, right? There are only a few of those guys that actually make those. My answer to them was, you should put money into the manufacturing sector, right? It's like they're going, I say, if you need cars, let's say cars are the equivalent of houses right now. You're basically going to like roller skate builders and asking them to figure out how to build cars, instead of like going to spaceship builders and saying, can you dumb it down and build some cars, right? And I feel like that's the big mistake that governments make, including the UK is making similar mistakes at the time. Like, they should really look to the people that are highly technical in the manufacturing space. Like I told them, you should put money into the manufacturing space so they can build simple assemblies that can make houses in component parts. You should disperse that in New Zealand around the country so that you can even have, even like Maori, like business centers, and get like a lot of the
Maoris.
Yeah. I was like, get them. And by the way, I was like, get those Maori women like into those centers, because like, in construction globally, we have 3% women in trades. There are a lot of Maori women that should be in the trades right now. Look at Portia Woodman. She has a whole thing that she's doing, I think, with Bunnings about being a carpenter, like subby apprentice.
Yeah.
I love you, Portia. Like, keep doing that. You're like,
Portia.
She's my role model in life, in a lot of ways. So I think I told New Zealand, like, you'd be better off spending that money instead of thinking about all these prefabrication modular housing box type scenarios, and just put money into smaller, more distributed manufacturing centers that were making component parts that could assemble into a home, right? So, and they could also do other things. They could be making, like as an example, they could just make the wall panels. They don't have to make the entire box. They could just be making the bathroom assemblies. They could just be making the HVAC assembly units and things like that. So larger assemblies that can fit together like a kit of parts, but from distributed places around the country, right? Like, not everybody makes one thing, right? You want to kind of spread it around, and then more communities win and more people win, right? But you actually can get more housing that way by sort of creating a distributed manufacturing country that has great capabilities in manufacturing.
And how was your speech received, or how was your dimes that you just dropped over there? How were they received from the people?
I think, well, my friend Pamela Bell, who runs BIM and Z. She runs the buildings group in New Zealand. I think it's called she's going to kill me. I don't know the name of it right now at the moment, but the New Zealand Building Institute. I think it comes across well if you've been in the space a long time. What I just said is harder than just picking a couple people and say, build me boxes. But just because it's harder doesn't mean that the benefits aren't greater, right? Like, and that's usually the case. Like, it's a little bit harder, but you're actually going to get greater benefits. And so I think it goes over well with some politicians, but the next thing they think in their head is, am I here for the long game? Will I see the benefit of like a distributed manufacturing, putting that in a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan? And unfortunately, most people are about instant gratification and votes at the moment to say, by the way, I always say, like, no one is not going to vote for you because you're like, we need more housing. And it's like saying you don't like puppies and babies. Like, if you say we want housing, they're like, great, of course. But I think you have to sort of step back and say, if you look at a complex problem like housing, because it's not just about how you build, it's about interest rates and land prices, and even like, letting people into the country that aren't, indigenous to the population, like if flooding it with lots of, people from other countries that have different money, different like mindsets. There's a lot of complexity to housing. So thinking you're going to solve it very simply is a bit, naive, if you will. And so I think if you think somebody has a very simple answer to something for housing, you should think twice, right? Like, not one thing is going to fix the housing situation. However, even if like distributing manufacturing skill set across New Zealand in smaller hubs doesn't in totality immediately fix housing, it fixes a lot of other things in the meantime, right? It gives people jobs, it gives people skills, it gives people a sense of purpose and a place where they can actually build things for other reasons, whether that's components for hospitals or components for, factories or components for whatever. I think that's where I think they don't scratch beyond a little bit of the surface stuff of the, it looks nice to stack boxes on boxes and it looks sexy, but the reality is it's not helping enough people, right? And I think that's, like I said, you can make money, but like, let's figure out how to bring everybody up at the same time. And I would love to see the Maori people, I love the fact that we've education, and some real culture and community for me. Like I for some reason, for me, like listen, I'm not Maori, but like I've walked into a room in the United States as a woman in construction who happens to be in leadership. And I'm I was on a job once, big fabrication facility, semiconductor, and I walked in and there were 88 people on the job in the leadership side, and I was the only woman, but for the receptionist, right? Like, so like at that point, yes, I'm not Maori. I don't walk into a room and I don't have darker skin, but I definitely know what it's like to not look like everybody else and to not talk like everybody else and to look like you stand out. And so I feel like for me, that's created an empathy for diversity around the world that should drive us, right? Like, because just diversity and perspective is better for everybody, no matter what happens. I think.
Yeah, I heard you say you're not Maori, and you said that a couple of times. But one thing, being Maori, because I'm Maori myself, I think a lot of being Maori is obviously it's just having mana, and I'm sure you've heard that word before. Mana, and you may not be Maori, but you have mana. You know what I mean? You have mana, and mana in your journey. You know what I mean? That girl that was sleeping on couches, that was all over the place. That it was pretty cast over to the other side of the country from her parents. That that came back, and even though didn't have the greatest relationship with her parents, decided to help things get off the ground, and then has just gone up and away since then. You have mana. So when you walk into a place, that mana shines through. So shout out to the mana. Hey, you got the mana anyway. And honorary Maori one,
I'll take it. I will take a little pin that says honorary Maori. I appreciate it.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I just want to, because me being Maori, right, that's who I am. It's all I've known. Obviously, I have a little bit of Scottish in me and a couple of other things, from a few great grandparents somewhere, great greats, whatever. But all I've known is Maori. It's my first language. It's, and I live in Australia now, but it's cool because we make up such a minute percent of the whole world, like Pacifica people in general, Polynesians in general, but Maoris as well too. And it's for me, this is a big driver of why I do this as well, is because I want to. I look at it this way: we grow up and we hear about Aristotle, Plato, Homer, not the Simpson, but the the Greek scholar, Socrates. We hear about all these dudes growing up, and at the same time, before those dudes could read and write, the Greeks, our people were traversing the oceans with the stars, man. You know what I mean? Like, we did some pretty cool things too. So I feel like being a Maori, and I'm a human as well. We're all humans, but I want to push our stories out to the world too, and connect with people like yourself that that one have an affinity for Maori, and also for humans and for people. So shout out to Auntie Amy, hey, the mana lady.
and think about it, like, you can't be what you can't see. So if there's little girls out there and they don't think they can be in the construction space, like, I'm glad that I'm here and that Portia's out there doing what she's doing, and that other women are doing what they're doing in my space. So that, by the way, I always say, like, when you're looking at TikTok or any of those like social media, if you do hashtag welding, or hashtag electrical, hashtag carpentry, you'll see a lot of girls out there and a lot of women doing a lot of trades. And I think, in our space, I tend to walk into boardrooms where, listen, no one looks like me usually, like in the boardroom, not a lot of us. And so they'll sit in a room and they'll say, we really want a diverse population, and we want to bring more women to the space. We want to bring more people of color. We want to bring more Indigenous people to the space. And I look around and I think, like, well, not like you better bring some Indigenous people in the room. If you want to figure out how to get Indigenous people, you better bring some young people in the room and go figure out where they're spending their time, because you certainly don't spend your time on TikTok. And if those girls are out on TikTok, or those people are, like in my space, I'm trying to raise money for U.S. Women's Rugby Foundation, because look, my girls, it's the governing foundation that's a nonprofit foundation that helps bring more girls and women to coaching and referees and to the sport, right, in the U.S.
Yeah.
And the reason I raise money for them is because, if you think about it, I played rugby 15 years. My daughter playing now. My dream is for her to play in New Zealand Rifles. Just so you know, Rifles. I'm hoping she'll take a year over at Rifles. But if you think about it, I'll go to a tournament in a weekend. There'll be 4,000 girls and, in high school and college. And there's not one sponsor from construction. Not one.
Really?
Not one sign, not one, gift bag, nothing. And I think to myself, you can't sit in the boardroom and say you want girls and women if at the rugby tournaments I'm going to, listen, my girls know how to use the porta-john, the bathroom that's outside. My girls know how to use, secure safety equipment. They have a mouth guard and boots. Like my girls, half of them are gay, and most of them, a bunch of them are of different diverse populations and colors. And look, at the end of the day, like my girls have a sense of humor, and they're strong, and they have leadership skills, and they're educated. You should want my women and girls out from rugby into the construction space, right? And you're not even there. Like, show up and write us a check. Like, if you truly want them there, show up and put your name out there. And that's where I say put your money where your mouth is.
There's a big opportunity too, because the Rugby World Cup will be there in 5 or 6 years or whatever it is. So, what is it? 8 years, whatever, 7 years, or something like that.
Year 33, maybe. Like,
yeah, something like that. I don't even know what the year is this year. I'm just going every day trying to podcast as many people and cool people as I can. So I don't know, but and I've actually had a few MLR players on here. And
have you? Yeah, I saw one of them actually on here. I said, I saw.
I had Samu Manoa, who played for the USA Eagles as well. Yeah, actually, Samu's a good dude, man. Like in a lot of the Seawolves, but so many players. I've had a lot of rugby players on, from a few All Blacks and there, a few Wallabies, but a lot. I've been trying to get as many in America. Even if any girls, if you know any girls that are that you think will be cool to jump on, like bring them, man.
I know.
I just want to let's have chats, man. Let's put them up.
I'll make a trade with any one of your Maori friends that are listening out there. Like, I'm desperate. I'm desperate to meet Portia for like 5 minutes, just to thank her for like what she's done for the sport. But like when I was out there, I'll get you anyone that you want in the rugby space over here. I know all of them, but the or most of them, at least on the women's side. I can't speak so much.
No, but they're the most successful. Eh?
I think so. We want the winners. So right, like the thing is, when I was down there, I actually met Tanu Maga. Actually, the last time I was down there, I was so lucky to meet Tana, like, and now he's the head coach of Pacifica, I think, out there.
Right? Moana Pacifica, which is another sort of cool team, because like if you think about how much Pacifica people have given to rugby throughout the world, like I think something like 40% of the whole game is like is Pacifica, or 50%, something like that, crazy all over the world. Yeah, that's what I mean. All over the world, it's like that. So like and like understanding that, it's like it's cool to see that they finally getting teams for like the islands in because like even Fiji and Drua, like they just made their first quarterfinals this year. They didn't do too well against the Blues, but I mean,
I know. I feel like who doesn't want to see the Pacific like people win? I feel like I watch Fiji, and I watch, like, if I think about like Samoa and like those places, like, and New Zealand, obviously, like I want to see them win. They're just like, first of all, I don't know what it is. It's like, I always say when I fly into New Zealand, it's like my heart home. It's like you fly in and you're like, I must have lived some other life there, because I feel like
probably,
like my brain relaxes in some way that is like your home. You want to see those teams win. Trust me. By the way, my daughter is a giant prop. She looks like she might as well be Polynesian. Like, she has to play against all those big Polynesian girls, and like she holds her own.
Ready. Like, she's ready, baby. Let's go.
So I'll if you have a great Polynesian girls team out there, you call me. I got a good American girl for you. But I feel like, look, as a population, like, especially when you're a small population in anything, having pride of your culture and being able to really talk about your culture and celebrate your culture, whatever that is, like, is important, right? There's that history, there's that future. Really, it's not just the history, it's the future that you want to think about. And I feel like if you don't do it, who will? Like, if you're not talking about it, Shubz, like, and you don't get out and say something, who's gonna? Like, you have to do it.
Well, that's it, eh? Like, and like, I even think about it like this, being just focusing on being Maori. Like, my grandparents, they were beaten for speaking our language in our own country. My grandparents, 2 generations ago, were beaten. Like, they weren't allowed to speak it at schools or anything. So like the Maori that you see now, that's everywhere, spoken all over the TV and that, our people had to fight for that. Right. You know what I mean? Our people had to fight to make that happen in our own land. You know what I mean? Like, so
I get it.
Yeah. So there's different.
I mean, we couldn't have a checkbook. We couldn't have a banking account as women. We couldn't own homes as a woman. We couldn't vote. Like, I know what that.
You know who the first country was to make women vote? New Zealand was.
New Zealand. I think so. New Zealand. And the thing. So I think, again, like, and I also think having this conversation is valuable in the sense that you think you're the only one that feels that way, or your culture is the only one that's experienced that. And like, if you can find those commonalities between, like, just in this conversation between Maori, your experience, and mine being a woman, in my man's space, like, you create empathy for each other, right? Like you realize you have commonalities with each other. And that's sort of what I learned at Harvard, business school. Like I had a lot more in common with some of those people that were super successful than I thought. And I didn't have to worry that at some point in business, I wasn't going to get where I wanted to go. And I just think like, that's why it's so important. When you asked me to talk on your show, like, again, I do, events. I was the construction woman of the year here in the United States. But like, I want to come on this show.
How cool is that?
I want to come on this show because if you think about it, like, if you're not in that room hearing those things with those people, most people are not in those rooms, like hearing about women that are winning those types of things. And like, I hope there's like little Maori girls that are listening to this going like, I could be construction woman of the year, in New Zealand.
Could be my daughter, man. Could be my daughter. Listening, She's only 4, but she's got bright ideas.
I ask people all the time. I'm like, when they say, "Oh, I have 3 daughters," I'm like, any rugby players in there? And they go, "Oh, my little one, she's so tough." I'm like, "Bring it on, let's go, let's bring her out to practice." Like, I don't care. Like, you've gotta start embracing other people and other cultures and recognizing that you're not alone. You're not the only one that's ever experienced that. You know what I mean?
You're exactly right. I only speak on that because like a lot over here in Australia, obviously the Aboriginal people, the indigenous people here. I hear a lot of their stories, and a lot of them didn't realize that us Maori had a lot of the similar things that happened to our people, just over the ditch, over the little bit of water. And a lot of the brothers, because I've worked in some of the communities and done a little bit of construction and like fixing up some of their like homes and stuff like that. And you have conversations with a lot of the older people, and a lot of them didn't realize that we experienced the same thing. And then there you go again. Like even traveling, I noticed that like, coming from a small town, New Zealand, you think, oh, like your world and you want to protect that little town. Then you realize the world is so big. But then so many of us have similar experiences all over the world. But we all want the same things. We all want to be fair. We all want our kids to be safe. We want a roof over our heads.
Right.
We want to be happy. You know what I mean? So like, we're all human. I think as much as we are different and we should be proud of who we are and embrace our differences and embrace our cultures, I think we should also remember that we're all human. You know what I mean? As well, because I think the world wants us to keep hating on each other because of the color of our skin or because we're this or that. But at the end of the day, you know what I mean? If I cut you and you cut me, we're gonna bleed the same color.
So, and then they're gonna make us pay for Band-Aids. That's the problem.
Well, especially in your country.
But the thing about it, like, that's one of the reasons why I love construction, right? So like in the space where like, look, if you don't have an opportunity to have an education in certain countries, or you're even like women, they try to keep down education. If you can build something, you can get into construction. That's like, you can make a ridiculous amount of money right now in any country if you want to get into the trades. Like right now, some of my friends are like, I go, oh, what are your kids doing after high school? And they're like, oh, well, they want to be an electrician. I'm like, awesome. They want to be an electrician. You'll be set for life. Like what a fantastic thing. Like they don't need to go to Harvard. They could be an electrician and make more money than I make right now. Like that's the beauty of like, I feel like construction is sort of one of the great equalizers. Like there's a lot of people that can own their own businesses with it. It gives you entrepreneurship. It gives you, the ability to go anywhere in any country and make money with those skills and those trades. So like that layer of like, we can all like have empathy and be, on this planet. For me, the next thing in my head is then, great, what are we building? Like, what are we doing together? How are we getting more homes, more hospitals, more data centers? And I do think that like, this industry of construction can truly be an uplifting place and a great equalizer. I want to bring more people to the space. There's a lot of technology in our space right now. People think that construction is only about being on the job site, holding a hammer, getting dirty, being in the rain. And actually that's not true, right? So like, mostly when I went to New Zealand for the keynote, I talked about the fact that there are jobs in construction that have only to do with technology, that only have to do with social media, that only have to do with legal, that only have to do with people. Like we need anyone and everyone that wants to come to this space so that we can build a better world in a smarter way, right? So like, I'm hoping that any kid that wants to code thinks about, hold on a minute, maybe I should go to the construction space. I need coders. We need coders. We need everyone to realize that there is a tremendous opportunity for you right now in the space to make money and have a great life. I mean, think about what, your guys that like your buddies that like own construction companies, even the guys that just do it like part-time, they make bucks. They're making cash, right?
Man.
Like there's
usually out here in Western Australia, man, that money is different.
That money is different, right? Like, and look, you don't have to necessarily go to 7 to like make that kind of money. I think that's important, especially if you're neurodiverse or you're more physical than mental, like whatever. You can make your way. Like that's really my pitch for our space, that I hope to see more people, make their way and find their passion in the architecture, engineering, construction space. Cause like we need you, we need you here desperately.
There you go. Preach, preacher.
My church. Welcome to the church of Shubz.
That's it. Like, yeah, you tell them, but that's what I think a lot of people don't realize. Like you said, is that there's so many facets to construction, and they just think, like you said, think, hard hat and a hammer and some steel cap boots. They think that's it. But
I would say yes. And it can also be this, like, and by the way, if all you have is steel toe boots, get out there and be a laborer and work your way up. If you have something else and you've gone to like learn something, get in here too. There is a pathway, I think, to success for anyone that has a little bit of drive and wants to be in the space, and surround yourself with great people, right? Like there's great people in our space, and we value mental health. We're trying to really bring that to the forefront so that, people that get on job sites go home safe and are safe when they're home. And I don't know, I think for me, like it's provided a wonderful place that I hope I want to bring to other people to have that kind of experience in their jobs and in their life. So,
yeah, you spoke on being on the spectrum. What do you think, if anything, has that helped you, and in what way has it helped you with what you do as a strategist?
For sure, it is my superpower. Like,
yeah.
I was up till like midnight last night doing spreadsheets and stuff just for fun, because I was trying to make some understanding of some connection. But for me, it's about mapping connecting a million things at one time, right? So I'm able to like I have a voracious appetite and focus for bringing in information when I'm trying to learn something, and then like almost like stars in the sky, I can see a different pattern and connect those things, or a star that needs to be there to make the pattern. So I definitely know that the way my brain chemistry works and the way my brain works has helped me, along with sport, has helped me be successful. So I think it shouldn't ever hold you back. Now I'm terrible at other things, by the way, because of it. But you have to know.
Can you name some of those things? Can you name some of those things that they're not as good at?
I mean, I'm not great at like oftentimes I'm like writing things or doing things in my head. And like, my daughter will be like, mommy, did you hear what I was like? Sometimes I was like, what? I answered you. And she's like, you didn't answer me. Like, you think you answered me.
You thought you did. Oh, okay.
Also, I'm terrible at directions, by the way. I have that syndrome, I think, in my brain that unless I'm in the Southern Hemisphere, I actually have to set my Google Maps to get to the grocery center in my town. Somehow when I'm in New Zealand, though, I know exactly where I am. It's a bizarre thing. I must have, I think I lived there in another life that like.
No, I think you did.
Like when we're there, I know how to get everywhere. And my daughter's like, how is it possible that you can get from like this place to that place, but at home, you can't even figure out how to get to my school without, the GPS. And I'm like, I don't know. So there's a lot of things I'm truly terrible at. Like, I'm not that great in crowds. Like I'm not great when there's too much input, and it's like, then I kind of have to be like, oh my, it's a lot for me. And then I have to
get a little bit overstimulated in those.
A little bit. It's like, also like, it's funny. People who have a brain like the way that my brain works, like I'm not great at watching things that are pretend, like, or things that are unsolvable. So like the things like watching the news for me is very bad before I go to bed. I can't watch the news before I go to, probably most people can't, but
shouldn't like, watch the news anyway.
I think there's things I'm real bad at, like, because of it. But I mean, again, it's sort of like figuring out what the things that you're good at and focusing on those. And then listen, you can always align and surround yourself with people that are really good, really think twice about who your partner is in life. Because if you're really good at things, not necessarily, you don't want to be great at the same things all at the same time.
That's a good one.
You can't. You gotta figure out somebody. Like when I got divorced, actually, and my mom was like, "You should be with another CEO," and I was like, "I don't want to be with another CEO. I don't want to be with anybody that's like me, because then we'll be like, who's gonna do the things that I don't know how to do?" And that like my life is very happy, right? Even though my partner is a vice president, he works in oil and gas, and he's in operations, but his brain works completely different than mine. And thank God, because that's how we can get out the door in the morning and make sure that our bills are paid and things are done, and that we're happy, right? Like you have to find somebody who actually fits the opposite of your puzzle pieces in some ways, Yeah,
I like we're getting relationship advice out here too. Oh, I'm loving this. This is on. We're getting rugby advice, life advice, relationship advice, construction advice, business advice. It's all happening here, fam. Queen of Prefab. on the Mind the Mic podcast, hitting us with a big cup of what's in that cup?
Coffee, of course.
Yeah,
Not
how do you have
great
your coffee?
like
Okay.
not like Australian coffee.
If you could choose how to have it, how do you have your coffee?
Flat white, absolutely. Like, I'd have a flat white, like if I could. I have this actually is a flat white, but I made it myself, at home. Yeah, our coffee's kind of crap here, and actually, like our dairy products are just trash comparative, to like New Zealand. It's like when you eat yogurt for the first time in New Zealand, you're like, oh my, is this what yogurt's supposed to taste like? You think like everyone lied to me in life that yogurt. Like, I couldn't eat yogurt for like 3 years. Afterwards, I was like, this is like what? I actually tried to figure out like how do I get New Zealand yogurt? It's impossible. Like
you can't do it.
Not really. It sucks. Or eggs and yogurt and things like dairy, I feel like are not the same here. For sure.
Yeah, well, we don't have to bleach our eggs.
Yeah, it's like you can't. It's terrible. It's like going to Tokyo and eating sushi there, and then you come back and you're like, ugh, this sushi's crap. You can't eat any of it, which is good. Then you save a lot of money, but like afterwards. But yeah, we by far you have some amazing. The best part about actually New Zealand and Australia, to be honest, is the culture, the people. Like I'll never forget. I did one of my first jobs in Australia. True story. A big construction company hired me, and they were like for the day or 2 days, and it was like 4:15, and we were supposed to work till 5. And as an American, I'm like, man, I got to give them their money's worth, right? And then like at 4:15, they were like, "Are we leaving? Are we like getting it like sure?" And they were like, and by the time I got downstairs at 5 o'clock, they were already in their surf gear, and they were like, "Great job today. We're out at the beach." And I was like, that was so strange,
So laid back, eh?
But yeah, that's a stitch for me. But anyway, this has been great. Like talking to you.
It's been awesome. It's been amazing. Before you do go, I got a couple of little quick ones if I can ask you those. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Give me your top sevens rugby sevens players of all time, in your opinion.
Player because I'm a prop, obviously. I mean, I don't know if I can name all 7. Tana. My dog's name was actually Tana for a long time.
Oh wow!
My bulldog. He was a bulldog. I mean, Jonah is amazing. Alona Mayer is amazing. Naya Tapper, amazing. I mean, Alev, who's on the 7th team right now, is fantastic on the women's team. And I mean, Jamie Burke is the most amazing prop of all time in the history of props. Jamie Burke, she's fantastic.
Is that 6 already or 5? I don't know.
I have so many of them, but
give me one more then. Give me one more. Give me one more then.
I'm a big fan of Crystal Murray, actually, Muzzy K, and like Michaela Blythe's up there though. Ruby Tui, how do I not say Ruby Tui? Like she's sort of.
And how did you not even say your idol, Portia?
That was like given. I feel like there's like players, and then there's like Portia.
Okay. All right. Imagine if she didn't have the injuries too. Like what a try scoring record would be like right now.
Also, like I love the fact that like she's just come out and her family. She was talking about what it's like to be with Renee, and I just think like again, everybody people want to be happy as to who they are, and I just love that part about her as well. Like anyway,
I love that.
Those are my 17 ones.
Yeah, those are your 17 rugby players of all time. What a team too! What a team! If you could have one meal for the rest of your life, you got to eat this meal every day. Which meal would you have?
I mean, I'm going for sushi, of course, but not the ones we get here in the United States. I'm going for sushi, like for sure.
What's in your sushi?
I mean, I'm a good fatty tuna girl. I like uni as well, the sea urchin. I'm up about all the things that most people are like, ooh, like I love all the
sea urchin. We call that kine, Māori. We call that
kine, yeah. And what are the clams called again that you get on
pawa?
Yeah, like I love that. I love anything that like is the stuff that people don't like at sushi for the most part. Like I like all the things that people are like, ooh, I don't know if I should eat that. I'm like, I'm eating that. That's the part I like, of any kind of sushi. I love salmon, love, yellowtail, any of that. But like, yeah, any kind of sushi I would go for.
Any kind of sushi every day. That's you.
All day, every day.
That's Queen of Prefab. All right then. What about superpowers? Besides all the superpowers you already attained? If you could create one or have one that already exists in the world of superpowers, which one would you choose and why?
I want to be the best mom ever as my superpower, but I want.
You already got that one.
I'm trying. I try every day. So I'm like, I think mind reading is amazing for me. Would be like if I could read people's minds.
Really?
Yeah. Why not? Want that? I do.
Ooh, I don't want that.
I absolutely want that.
Like, you want that?
Oh yeah.
No. That's cool. You have that.
More than flying. Like more than flying, or like maybe invisible. Invisible would be great too, because I don't have to be inside their head, but I could see what they were saying. You know what I mean? Like more for that. Like maybe invisible. If I didn't want to hear the negative things of people's brains.
So but that's the thing. Hey, you got to take it all. Like, or would you have one that you could turn off and on? Like, if you want to listen to their thoughts, you could turn it on.
Yeah,
if you
for
didn't,
sure.
you could turn it off.
For sure, you like. I mean, you're not flying all the time, so like you have to have something you can do, like, turn it on and off. Yeah, I think like either invisible or reading people's minds. That would be great. Time travel would be great. I mean, obviously, time travel.
Okay, time travel. Let's speak on that quickly. If you could go back to an era in time, where would you go to?
That's tough. I'm not sure. Like, to be honest, like, I don't know. I don't know. Like, it's. I think I want to go back to any time that I'm happy. Like or that I could be happy is the first thing that comes to my mind. Like.
Maybe you'll go back to when you were a Maori living in New Zealand back in the days.
100% where I want to go back.
I think just like Jason Momoa, I think he thinks he's Maori. Or apparently his family left Aotearoa like 200-300 years ago and ended up back in Hawaii or something. I don't know if that's true. I heard him say something like that. Well, that's what he said. Yeah, I don't know how, but hey, apparently he is Maori, like way back.
I'm saying he could pass for sure. Like, right. Like,
when he loves the All Blacks too. And
he does. I didn't know that.
He loves it. Yeah. He was in New Zealand filming last year with all the heaps of All Blacks, filming movies with them and stuff. Nice. Yeah. Like I think I seen Ofatuanga Fasi, he was in some of the stuff, and
I'm like,
there's plenty others.
I'm going for Jason.
Jason Momoa. There you go.
Another reason to like him. He's like hard on the eyes, I think, but I'll give it to him. He's a little like, I'm just joking.
He's a bit hard on the eyes. Yeah. That's the first time I've heard that one.
Another reason to like him. You know what I mean? Like, okay, let's go with that.
Yeah, let's go with that. He's Maori. All right.
Funny, my daughter says all the time she's going to end up with like a giant, like Fijian or Samoan or New Zealand husband one day. I'm like, I pray every day that like I'll make some good arranged marriage with some rugby player right now that wants has a.
Then you have another rugby player's grandchild. Just
let's make props
coming. Yeah,
I need prop grandkids, but I want some. Like my daughter always says that she's like, I think that they're such beautiful people, and I'm like, great. I pray one day my son-in-law is like, or my daughter-in-law is a beautiful prop like from Pacifica. That'll be great.
Yeah, solid. Give us a piece of advice for anybody out there that wants to be in your field. Anything that you haven't said? Is there anything you could put out there? Just
get on LinkedIn and reach out to somebody and make them say yes to just talking to you. Because I think there are a lot, especially women and men, that will answer you back whenever they call you. They want people in the space. So just don't be afraid to ask. If you don't ask, you don't get. Just ask.
Like this. If I didn't ask you, I wouldn't have got. So
yeah.
Grateful. There you go. Give us visualization. Last question. Visualization. 10 years from now, what does life look like for a 31-year-old Amy Marks?
I'm sitting on boards. I sit on a bunch of boards because I'd like to pick up a few boards now that make me happy to help other people, like company boards. I still speak at a lot of conferences all around the world and teach. And, I've written a couple curriculums for universities. So I want to see some of those get into degree programs. And that's it. I mean, I sit on boards. I talk to people. I help people. I mentor people. I get mentored by other people, reverse mentored even. That's it. I'm happy. I'm happy. Knock wood. I'm happy in 10 years as well and healthy. And my daughter is playing in the World Cup.
Hey, that'll be pretty cool. That'll be pretty cool. Yeah. She's going to be playing at the one in the States by then. She'll be.
That's true. That's why I say. She'll be in Ireland this summer playing for the U16s at ERA. So
true. Oh, she's about that life. She's on the way. She's on the way, baby.
Yeah. She's in the development camps for the U18s for US. Like, so I'm hoping I tell her every day, I'm like, just work hard and whatever happens, but like, just do your best.
Yeah. Hey, I just want to say, Amy Marks, Queen of Prefab, thank you so much for coming on Mind the Mic podcast. Time is the most valuable commodity we have as human beings. The one thing we can never get back. We can always get back money, things, but time spent is time lost. So thank you for sharing over an hour and even waiting for me for 5 minutes.
Yeah, no worries.
So much. And
take care.
I hope this isn't the last time we sit down, not only on here, but maybe even in the flesh if we're in the same city. And schedules align. Let's catch up, sister.
Anytime.
Big thank you so much for watching this full episode of Mind the Mic. It takes a lot of time, energy, and effort to create these episodes. So to know that you've watched and listened to the entire thing means the world to myself and all our hosts. If you could, before you leave, please hit the subscribe button and share this episode out to as many people as possible. It would help us so much. Thank you again to everybody that's still here, still watching. Thank you for all your comments, all your shares, all the DMs. Appreciate you all. Make sure you follow us on every platform. Have an awesome morning. Have an awesome night, depending on where you are in the world. Mind the mic out.
Oi, have you hit the link in bio yet?
Watch full episodes on YouTube or listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all streaming platforms.